don't.
Yeah, you got opt out. You don't opt out of this?
Message well.
Take a look. It's full of cheap dollars that you are.
It is on Tuesday, June the 13th. We'll call to order this meeting of the Murphysboro City Council. That's we would all rise. And I'd like to invite Ms. Hughes to lead us to the invocation.
Gracious and loving God, whose still soft voice we long to hear, help us to walk in your wisdom and rest in your spirit. Give us guidance for what we need to do and what to do and how to serve the community that we work with. We ask these things in your name.
And pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Alderman Hughes.
Here.
Alderman Curry-Witzman. Here. Alderman Rahe.
Here.
Alderman Alston.
Yes, ma'am.
Alderman Jackson. Here. Alderman Pittman.
Here.
Alderman Urbis.
Here.
Alderman McCullough.
Here.
Alderman Glad.
Here.
Your seats.
Here. All right, that takes us into our agenda for this evening. Up first, we have the consideration of minutes from May the 30th, 2023. Entertain any questions or comments on the minutes at this time. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Some of it.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I'm going to abstain, I wasn't here.
All right.
So,
So, motion carries. That takes us into our regular committee and commission reports, and which is chaired by Budget Finance by Mr. W.J. Pitt.
Thank you, Mayor. We have no items under old business. Under new business, we have the presentation of ending 12/31/22. Amber and Anna have done this several years in a row. But you guys run the show.
Hope you guys aren't sick of us yet. Yes, I'm Anna Gitterswall with Coburg & Brickle with AEB. This is Amber Leslie. She's been the senior on your audit the last 2 years, so she goes out and does most of the work, and then I get to come and just tell you all the good news. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to stop and ask me. I'm going to cover the stuff I have to cover. A few little extras I wanted to throw in this year just as I was looking at your financials preparing for today. But yeah, I'm here for your benefit if you have anything you want to ask about the audit process itself or going forward into the next year. So in front of you, you've got a bound board presentation. I'm going to start with the overview of the audit, which is the first tab. That overview is going to cover what's in the second tab. The second tab is a formal letter. It's a required communication between us, the auditors, and you, those charged with governance. I'm not going to read that letter to you, but I'm going to hit all the highlights in my overview. So first and foremost, the responsibility of the financial statements rests with management. Our responsibility as the audit firm is to give an opinion on those financial statements. So our opinion lets users of the financial statements know that they can reasonably rely on the information. It gives reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance, because we don't test every single transaction, but it gives them reasonable assurance that they can rely on the financial statements. Now, your financial statements are presented on the modified cash basis of accounting. This is different than what is generally accepted accounting principles. I explain this every year just because if you go out and you look at like a public company or something, you're going to see accounts receivable, accounts payable, things of that nature that you're not going to see on your financial statements. It's really, modified cash is going to present cash in, cash out, and so you can see some fluctuations from year to year depending on when you collect property taxes and things of that nature. So sometimes looking from one year to the next isn't really apples to apples, but it all kind of washes out in the mix, if that makes sense. For the FY '22 audit, we did issue an unmodified opinion. Now, unmodified opinion is an accounting terminology, basically letting you know that we did not modify our opinion for any reason. You can also refer to it as a clean opinion. Any questions on the unmodified opinion? As far as the audit itself, we have certain audit standards that we have to follow, processes and procedures we have to do. We do some fraud interviews, but we do mostly substantive audit testing. So we look at source documents, we confirm balances with third-party institutions, and all of this is based on a formal risk assessment that we do at the beginning of the audit. And to come up with what we think is risky at your entity, we look at your processes and procedures. Is it being done timely? Who's doing it? Are there any segregation of duties issues? Things of that nature, and we focus our testing more in those areas that could be at risk. Every single entity has a risk of management override of control, including yours. So even if you have good processes and procedures in place, there's always a risk that someone would override those processes. So we do things like haphazardly select samples. Management won't know what we're going to look at when we come out to try to mitigate that risk, if that makes sense in our testing. We also, because in government of this nature, you're doing a lot of disbursements, and even though you've got good approval processes in place, we do typically select a larger sample of disbursements and agree back to source documents, make sure that it went through all the proper procedures per your accounting policies as far as approvals, and making sure it matches up with the invoice. Sometimes we'll look and see, is this vendor a common vendor, or is this unusual, what you're usually seeing? I know from coming to your board meetings and reading your board minutes, you guys are very heavily look at those things, so we do also keep that in consideration. So if you're following along with me, I'm on page 3, and as far as the audit itself, it went really well, as usual, full access to books and records, everything that we requested, we received timely. Really just, you guys are a great team to work with every year, so we appreciate that. We did not have any audit adjustments. If I were to have audit adjustments, I would be required to communicate those to you. And I'm also required to communicate any past adjustments. So if we were to tell management this needs to be adjusted and they would refuse, I would be required to tell you that there was nothing of that nature. So that tells you that you're getting accurate financial information throughout the year that you can rely on. We're not coming in at the end of the year and proposing a bunch of adjustments to your financial statements. Any questions on the overview? Okay. I'm going to talk about page 7. That's in the 3rd tab. And just briefly, some things I noticed. So this is your statement of net position for the entire citywide. The only thing that's not presented here is the police and fire pension funds. And so in time as of December 31st, 2022, what you had in assets and liabilities on the modified cash basis of accounting. And I just noticed that your cash, and I'm looking really at your unrestricted cash and cash equivalents and your investments. You're at 1.3 million for cash and cash equivalents and 7.2 million for investments. That's a very healthy amount. I kind of went back just out of curiosity. The first year I did your financial audit was 2017, and your total cash and cash equivalents and investments in 2017 in the unrestricted category was $3,215,000. So it's a vast growth in the last several years. The last 2 years being a lot of that, you had some ARPA funds, some COVID money, things like that. I expect you're going to have some big projects and we'll start to see that go down, but that is a very healthy balance sheet, if you will. Any questions on that? The other thing I don't typically talk about at these board presentations, there's a note disclosure in your financial statements. It's always there. We have to disclose any deposit risk. I've had a lot of boards ask me the last couple meetings about your risk with your cash and investments because of some of the bank failures that have happened. So we do always look at your coverage for FDIC. Your investments are covered through another program called SIPC, and then you can also get what's called pledged securities, or the bank will just basically pledge assets on your behalf to cover your accounts, and you are fully covered in that regard. So I wanted to mention that since it's come up at other meetings. Any questions on that? The only other thing I wanted to go over was our recommendations, so that is the last tab, unless you guys have more specific questions on the financial statements. We kind of repeat these recommendations every year. As I mentioned at the beginning, we get an understanding of your processes and procedures, and really for an entity of your size, you're doing a good job. I'm just required to let you know that there are some segregation of duties issues. Anytime you have one person that does too many steps in the process to where they could commit and conceal a fraud, we do have to disclose that to you. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, as long as you have honest employees and you're also, your oversight helps with that, you may never have an issue. So you do have some payroll disbursements and receipt functions where you've got one person doing a few of the steps where they could, in theory, commit and conceal a fraud. So I just encourage you to continue to provide that oversight throughout the year and watch over that. Like I said, just, maybe if you have some turnover in that area or something too, that'd be a good time to maybe reevaluate your process and procedures. Okay, and then if I just will mention, we didn't have any audit adjustments, but there was a prior period adjustment reflected on your financial statements. If you look at that, we did make a small, it was like $18,000. It really wasn't material overall, but there was some old assets that never got put on the asset listing, and management discovered that this year and added that. So that's what that is.
What were those assets?
A couple old fire truck type pieces of equipment, and I don't know what the third one was.
So in
Yeah, street department.
the modified cash basis of accounting, it's not that it was never reported. The expense would have been reported in the fund expenses years ago when it happened, but on the government-wide presentation where you list the total assets, it didn't make it to that listing. And that's all I have, unless you guys have questions for me.
Well, there's nothing better about an audit than an uneventful one. And, we've had uneventful ones now as long as I can remember, and I thank you for your service. Obviously, thank you, Sandra, Scott, everybody in the city for doing such a great job of just running your departments efficiently and honestly, and so to, let these types of situations where we get a good report overall.
Thank you, Anna. All right, next item is consideration of accounts payable, accounts receivable, and payroll registers. Anybody have any questions on the bills?
I don't have a question on it, if I could do that. Last year we went through this too. Tourism was making donations for like block parties and celebrations and such, and we questioned last year the fact that, a lot of them were nonprofits, which I find fine. I still myself am a little leery of the ones that we're doing that they're doing for businesses. There's a $5,000 for the block parties at the Bruce Brothers. I just would like to make sure that they are, last year they were donating some of the profits to nonprofits, and I felt a lot better about it with that. I would like for someone to check and see if they're continuing to do that.
I think the last block party was a relay for life.
Yes, it was. Yes, that was. I know that. But what I don't know is if they're going to continue that, I just think it would be nice if they did, since they're not a nonprofit.
I could certainly ask Rachel Fager.
It doesn't mean that we shouldn't pay that bill. I don't mean it like that.
Sure.
So are you asking to make sure tourism is still donating to nonprofits, or
There were several on here that they donated to, that including that one. There was the Brew Fest and, I don't know, there weren't any that were that high, WJ. Most of them were $1,000, I think.
Right. And I'm sure everybody, where, we talked about it, budget time and.
Yeah, I'm
we know
aware.
they're
I think
spending a
they're
lot
staying
more. They're trying to
within,
get through some of their,
I get that, and I
money they
think
had
they're
on
trying very
reserve
hard to
to-
stay within their so-called budget or the money they have, don't get me wrong. I just would like to make sure that they are giving back to some of the nonprofits. I think that was really a nice thing for them to do last year, and I would like to see them continue that. And then I do have one more question. It's on page 14, and probably Charlie, you can answer this most likely. The Ryan Edwards demos, were those in our code budget for demolition? Okay.
That's the start of, I think there was 3 properties.
Yes.
That lump sum to Ryan was the lowest bidder on
Yes,
those 3.
okay.
So that's,
But that wasn't any special monies that we got, that was in our
No,
budget.
yeah,
Okay,
that's-
thank you.
yeah.
That's really all I have, and I thank you for that.
is there any more questions on the bill?
I mean, I kind of the same question that Bob had on the block parties, and I guess I was curious as to how many block parties was $5,000 for.
This is one of mine.
There's no at least one.
There's one a month, it's usually the first Friday before, so that's
Before cruise
the night before cruise nights, and that's all summer long.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
Do they donate over the $5,000 that they take in? I mean, they're giving them $5,000 to sponsor this stuff. There's not $5,000 coming out, it'd be just so well to take that $5,000 and donate to these funds.
I think that's what Bob's.
That's
I mean-
what I was, they were giving 10% of their profits back, like, if I remember correctly, Gary, last year. Back to nonprofits.
What I'm saying, if they don't raise nonprofit,
Exactly.
then they'd be better off to donate the $5,000 out to these nonprofits instead of giving it to the bar.
I tend to agree with you, that was the point I was making.
Well, so here's my issue with that, is this is a tourism fund.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of those nonprofits are not generating tourism dollars, Tourism
Yeah,
is
I
about
get
bringing
Yeah.
people into Murphysboro that are gonna spend, give us
That is
tax
true.
money,
Yeah. In all fairness, I mean, I know those are tourism funds, but there really are money that we've allocated for them to spend. So I think it's prudent for us to kind of watch over it carefully.
Right, and I think if that's what we would want to do, then come budget time, if that's the case, we would want to lower what their budget would be instead. If we're giving it to them to spend in a budget, and they have a tourism board that votes on what they're spending, we have to have some, a little bit of trust with them on
I
what they're
agree.
doing and that they're
Yes.
doing the right thing. And
And
if
I
they're
don't
not,
think
then we either got the wrong people on the board, or we've given them too much money to spend,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's the case.
I don't think either one of those.
But I agree with what you're saying, I wouldn't mind having Rachel give us that report again.
I would
of
like
where
to
that-
see the report to see
Where
if
that
they're
money's
giving back.
going, what they're giving back to,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that.
But it's my understanding that the proceeds generated for like hotel motel tax go to, it's not as if we really
I mean, we can't,
give that money
right,
to somebody else, like by
Well,
statute. like
You
it goes-
established 100 years ago that it was going to tourism.
It's in my Illinois statute that the hotel motel tax
That
goes
is
to
an Illinois
tourism.
statute.
Yes.
It wasn't a city thing that
It's,
somebody a long time
it's
ago
also in our
said.
city code, but Illinois statute sets the basis by which it's in the city code.
and this year it'll be a lot more because they're also trying to spend what they had built up over time.
Yes, I know that,
They don't,
yes.
So, I
Yes.
think, and then I think after 2 years of having that money coming in from the hotel, we'll have a good idea
A
of what
better
that's
idea,
gonna
yeah.
be on a consistent basis. All right, are there any other questions on the bill?
Move approval.
The motion
Second.
and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is financial statement.
Thank you, WJ. Before I get into my report, so there's probably 2 points of order I want to talk about the audit. I think we need to probably vote to accept that, which we typically do.
Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't think
So I don't know if you want to do that now or whatever you
so. Yeah, I
want to
mean,
do.
since it's on that, anybody wants to make a motion to?
Go ahead.
I think.
Good motion,
Second.
second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion will carry. Thank you, Sam.
Sure. Second point is, I didn't want to get into a food fight with the auditors while they were here, but the point they brought up on that last topic about the assets kind of sticks with me the wrong way. 2 of the 3 assets that were found, that we found, right, not them, were numerous audits in a row. When it was their responsibility to put those on there. Only in the last 3 or 4 years have we been keeping track of those assets and run depreciation, that kind of thing. So they're really kind of implicating themselves a little bit by doing that. But again,
She didn't insinuate.
right over it, so I just wanted you guys to know that. But anyway, I'll get into my reports now and digress off of the...
Just send them a sternly worded letter.
No. But so
We're just sending $15,000.
yeah, no, it was just, you know, when people are involved, the differences of opinion, right? So I mean, this was not accept that and have a big issue. It wasn't, but we are the will on that topic, I guess I'll say. So, but anyway, I'll get into my reports now. On the sales tax front, we had a really good month. The voucher amounts this month, which would have been the March sales, were between home rule and sales are $343,000 and change. So we vested last year this time by about $14,000. So that's again, we've got a nice trend going. We were kind of behind in March, but the last 3 months have been a positive trend over the previous month last year. So that's always a good news when we, and I think if you can, you know, since we do have 6 months there, I kind of extrapolated, and I think we're going to be, unless something funky happens in the last 6 months, we should be right at or exceed budget by a little bit. You see at the bottom, the $4,030,000 is the combined total of sales and home rule tax that we budgeted. So I think we're going to hit that, and maybe exceed it. So we'll see. Cost, we had a fairly high month. Total citywide health insurance was just under $50,000, $49,000 and change. We had a little bit higher than normal HRA utilization month. Certainly not the highest we've had. We've had as high as almost $14,000 in January. And you typically do see this kind of go down over the year as people hit those maximums and various things. But pretty decent month, and we're still well within our target ranges for budget for general fund and water sewer on the healthcare front. So continues to be a good plan, I believe, that we have in place. So there's that. The snapshot of the general fund spending for the first 5 months. So in general fund, we've spent $2,872,000, and we have budgeted $3,083,000 for the same period of time. So we're $210,000 under budget. Again, a lot of that has to do with ARPA money we haven't spent yet. So that shoe is going to drop obviously at some time this year. So, our actual revenues have exceeded our budgeted revenues so far through the 5 months. So that's always a nice thing. And part of that, of course, is due to the positive gains we've talked about in the sales tax the last couple of months. That's contributing to that. So for the first 5 months, we have a deficit of $70,000. And if we kind of extrapolated our estimated $964,000 deficit that we budgeted for, we were thinking if that was all spread evenly throughout the year, we'd have a $401,000 deficit. So we're ahead of the game there, but again, don't get too excited about that because we probably will, once that ARPA money goes, it's going to go and go fast, so it's going to be some big numbers. So just trying to brace you for that. And it's all part but that's where we are. I will mention on the next report on the salaries, which is actually the last of the reports, that we did have a 3 payroll month. Been talking about that coming down the pike, and it has. So we spent $428,671 on salaries citywide, which includes water, sewer, of course. And we budgeted $324 if you spread the budget evenly over 12 months. So we were $104,000 over budget in May because of that. But because we, that's just kind of a timing issue, and because we had a cushion going into that, we're still about $91,000 ahead of, to the good, let's say, on our spending on salaries. We're at $1,530,000 and we thought it was going to be $1,621,000. So we'll have one more 3 payroll month this year, and of course that will always swing it negatively again, and we'll have the holiday pay and that kind of stuff. So we've anticipated all those things, and we think we're still on target salary-wise for the budget. So I think that's all I had to talk about tonight. I wasn't going to talk about anything because I figured you guys would be, tired of hearing finances at the auditors, but then I don't know, decided to do something at the last minute last week. So now you're just full of financial information. Yeah. Any questions?
Just keep turning in those good sales tax reports.
Do what I can, massage the numbers, No, they are what they are, so.
You just have to go spend some money at the end of the month, so.
That's the key there, I guess, so.
Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
Is there any public comment under budget finance? Hearing none, we can move on.
Thank you, WJ. That takes you to Buildings and Grounds, chaired by Mr. Mike Austin.
Thank you, Mayor. Under Building and Grounds, we have no old business, and under new business, we have consideration of declaring 8 properties as surplus.
Mr. Austin, if I may. Charlie, I spoke with Leander Bryant earlier today about these various properties. Is it true that 2014 Lendl is a property we do not want to declare surplus?
Yeah, there's a couple on here. I guess I cross-wired with my office, and I don't know if you want to go through them, but I can give you kind of the hit list on them.
Well, I know that the Stecker Street, the Alexander Street, 2041 Lindell, the Maple Street, and the 450 North 8th are all vacant lots. Are these all vacant lots other than?
No, 305 Walnut Street is one that we just acquired. It's a trailer right below Branch One Stop, kind of down in there. That we just sent bids out for that today.
Okay.
So that still has a trailer on it. It's not vacant. I believe the neighbor would possibly be interested in that. She's been keeping up with mowing it. So once we get that removed, that'd be one for surplus.
So it's not ready to be declared
That
surplus?
one, no.
Okay.
Oh, and the 2041 Lindell, is that the corner lot, or is that the?
Yes.
Who owns a lot next to it with a little trailer in the back? Is that part of that lot or not?
No, there's 2 separate lots there. 2014, so prior to this list, it was some of these properties had been included in my grant that we've been working on. The 2014, the bones of that house, hopefully at the end of this week, going to visit it with the contractor as well as the high school to see if that's one of those ones that we could rehab instead of demolishing. So that one for sure would be on the back burner list.
Have you been in the 2014?
Not yet. That's what I hope to. Hopefully Thursday we can go in and actually take a look at it.
I know the city had to board it all up because
Yeah.
I think one of our police officers got hurt in there trying to get a guy out of the attic.
Yeah.
But my understanding, that house could be sold and fixed up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It's from the outside, structurally, the roof, everything else. It's one that I think that would require minimal money to fix up and to resell and use for the high school program that we've been working on. It's always difficult because 2014 and 2041 always seem to kind of superimpose in my brain too, so they're back and forth, but.
Yeah, well, me and Leander had a conversation, it was like, who's on first, when we first started that.
It is, and like Gary said, there's a lot on the backside of 2041 that's probably owned, but you wouldn't notice it because I think the city guys kind of mow that little extra
The
piece.
problem we had there, that boy was in there, he's supposed to take aluminum silo. He was in wrecking all the interior walls out,
Yeah.
taking all the support away, but they had to run him out of there to keep the roof from falling in on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bad deal.
Can you tell us again what Westwood Bay?
All right, so 305 Walnut Street, that's the one that's up for bid, so I would say that one's probably not a
Okay,
surplus.
we want that off.
1605.
That's the street where we,
Yeah, 1605 Stecker, there's
That's it.
actually a little lot that we own also, we've been calling it 1607. I don't necessarily know if it
Is
has
that-
an address. It's a little bitty lot to the north of
north
that.
of that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's in between where the house has been torn down on Stecker and 16.
Yeah, there's,
And then there's a tiny narrow lot before you get to the next house that used to be owned by O'Daniels.
correct.
Okay,
So those two, I would say, those two need to be considered together if
Okay.
we do
so,
surplus
but
those.
so we want to keep that on the surplus list?
Yeah, and I would put the 1607 as a lot as well with that, if we're gonna surplus to 1605.
Isn't that the 011?
Yeah, and I actually didn't bring my PIN numbers with me I can email you with all those with the parcel numbers so we know for sure. But those two should be together.
Yeah.
Um,
Is 2111 empty?
2111 is a vacant lot. There's also a lot that's, I'm going off of all memory here, but I think it comes up this tax sale, that's a vacant lot from the trustees as well. So there's potential for that to be two vacant lots, which.
Side by side?
Correct, which normally is, good for
More
neighbors
enticing.
or somebody else that wants to put a new house there.
But for tonight's purposes, we want to declare all these surplus except for 2014 Lindell and 305 Walnut. That would be a total of 6.
The 444 North 15th, I'm not, when I looked that up, I don't see that as ours.
Well, we just paid the bill to somebody to tear it down. It was one of the 3 that we just.
There's one of the 3 that we tore down the house to Ryan. Yep.
That's,
What do we want to wait until we got more?
yeah, when I was going through with the grant to write for, because there's been certain properties that I declared for maybe rehabable monies for that grant, and I came in out of this on the backside of it. I guess it was Leandra that came up with this list. This was our first list. So I was going to email you guys out the list of all our city-owned properties that we worked on. There's 9 pages of city-owned properties, abandoned properties, vacant properties that we worked on, that I think we need to revisit.
Well, I think we have one member of the public with us here this evening who may be a resident, lives adjacent to one of the lots. They have interest in it. Mr. Garrity, was that the reason for your attendance tonight?
Yes, that I think it's 1018 Maple adjoins our property on the alley, and we'd be happy to take over the mowing on it and the limb removal. We're not going anywhere, so we figured if we could get a hold of that, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, we do have folks who are interested. I just wanted to recognize the reason why you're here tonight. We may end up tabling this. I can kind of hear some of that, perhaps so we can get a more comprehensive list or something, but
Mayor, that's what I would ask. I would ask that we just hold it until the next meeting and get an updated surplus list.
okay.
Do we have his contact information that we can get a hold of him once we do this, or have a
Steve, I think
better, or would we,
call.
you know, we probably need to, if he's interested in that, I need to take that off this list.
Well, we still need to declare it
You have
surplus
to,
for
oh,
it.
gotcha, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, well, let's, Gary.
I do have a person interested in a lot we own down on Rowley. There's about 2 houses in the park.
Okay.
On Bill Gladstone house.
Well, we'll maybe get that one added and any others that we may need to. And then-
Mayor, and I have, and on that list, I have a spot on there, if any of you guys know any of them that could be sold or so forth and so on, to add to that, because we do have a pretty good list of who's interested in our properties that we own, so.
Okay. You want to make that motion to table this, Mike?
Yes, I would make a motion to table the properties to be declared as surplus until the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any public comments on the building and ground? If not, Mayor, we can move out of building and ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. That takes us to community relations. We have no old business under new business. We have consideration of sponsorship request from Murphysboro Barbecue Cook-Off. I got this in my inbox the other day, and we've just done various things over the years. I know a couple of years ago we did the challenge coins, and we've always done something to put in baskets for the barbecue teams, and I didn't just want to circle one again. Back.
Do on the cookies and stuff. Our water department goes up there and hooks all the places up for the water. And if she had to pay a plumber to do all that, it'd be a bunch of money. They hook it up, they disconnect it, they save the stuff and put it back up. I can't see where we buy them cookies every year where we should do any more than what we're doing right now for that barbecue job.
Other thoughts?
Well, plus all the street that we handle and the hours that the street department puts in on everything.
Sure.
I think that whenever I saw this, I thought maybe a member might want to be a friend of the barbecue or something. I didn't realize that they were wanting us to do more than what we're already doing.
I mean, I'm not suggesting that they want us to do more. It's just that we have always done something in the past, but it's varied greatly over the last couple of years what we've done. And so that's why I put it on the agenda, because
One good question related to our conversation earlier, do we know, do they go to tourism board as well for something like this?
I do not know, but I can of course ask that question.
I'm not opposed to doing something similar to what we've done in the past.
Did we give them monies as sponsors in the past, or have we just, I don't recall doing that.
We have, in 21, we gave them, we did $1,000. But I can ask if there's been any tourism dollars, received. That'd be an easy call. But buy stones or one of the other toys and like that.
Was that the money, was the $1,000 we spent on the coins? Was that the year?
No, that was, this,
Mike took care of that, I believe. The coins,
I'm sorry. I was looking for that sheet, I didn't have that sheet in my packet, so I
The
didn't.
memorial coin we.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, that was about, had the city logo on one side and Mike Mills on the other side.
right.
Yes.
but I would suggest we just buy the cookies and do the water deal for them, because that saves them a lot of money. And the team, if you're up there, always appreciates the cookies. I think, we used to get them at high school, and they quit doing it. And pretty well every year from Larry's House Cake, isn't it? And that's not the cheapest thing in the world, you know. But the teams love them cookies.
Do they pay for auxiliary officers?
I'm not sure if we get reimbursed for that, Sandra, do we?
No,
I
we
thought
don't.
that was something else that we.
Correct.
Well, we can just, pass on it, and like I said, nobody was, knocking on my door asking for anything. It was just that, what do we want to do here, and I didn't want to do the wrong thing. So, anyway, we'll move on with that. Is there any public comment on community relations?
We do have a $500 President Express marketing and sponsorship opportunity.
On the second,
One of that, for additional sponsorship opportunities.
oh, I see, okay. Well, why don't I bring this back to our next meeting, I'll see if the person has done anything, and then we'll, go from there, unless. Okay. Is there any public comment on community relations? Hearing none, we'll go to public improvement. I'm gonna have to assign some of these committees to somebody else here. We have no old business. Under new business, we have discussion regarding parking at 21 North 11th Street / 1101 Locust Street. This issue is related to Cindy B's and the ownership of Cindy B's looking, I believe, to purchase a building adjacent to their property or in that area and tear it down to create a parking lot. And the ingress and the apron that would be extended onto 11th Street to accommodate the parking lot would necessitate the elimination of a couple of city parking spots on the street. So that, because that's where cars would be pulling in and out of the lot. I believe, do you want to speak to this?
I can, yeah. I don't know if everybody here knows me. My name's David Mason. My wife and sister-in-law own Cindy B's Cafe. I work for the fire department, so I've been part of the city for a long time. Most of you guys know that the city is hoping to build a new building sometime in the upcoming years. And Cindy B's has had the benefit of using the city parking, which is right across the street, for many, many years, and we're very grateful for that. But with the new potential of the new building coming in, a lot of that city employees and everybody else coming into the building will be utilizing that parking there. So we're afraid that with that happening, it may, cut into a lot of the parking that we've had for many years. We hate tearing down an old building in town, but our initial plan was to save part of it, but after going in and looking at it, it's sat vacant for years. The roof is falling in, the floor's rotten. So we think the best path would be just tear it down, level it out, make it a parking area, and then have entrance and exit one way or the other, either from 12th Street onto 11th or vice versa. And then that would open up that area for our parking for the restaurant, but then, we close at 2 o'clock every day, and then everybody's usually out of there by 3 o'clock at the latest. So, we would gladly open that up to public parking in the evenings when we're closed. And I think it would be a benefit to everything going on downtown, car show, Apple Festival, everything else. So, like Mayor said, the last hurdle right now is the city vacating those 2 parking spots for us to have the either entrance or exit ramp onto 11th Street right there. So I would hope that you guys would, take this as us helping the city out, but helping us out at the same time, and vacate those 2 parking spots for us.
I make a motion that we donate those
What's that?
parking
What
spaces.
building's going down?
It is the old Art of Hair building. The Carlos Tanner owns it. It's Art of Hair, World Finance, and then Tanner CPA. It is,
It's
yeah,
across the street, not.
it's across the street from McDonald's, directly behind, connected to
Okay,
Heller's
gotcha.
building.
All right,
Yes.
I know where you are. I mean, I knew it had to be in that area, but I wasn't sure which building would be coming down. Okay, so it's where the Art of Hair used to be, and there's a finance company there.
Yeah, there's
too, or-
3 storefronts there. It's, used to be Art of Hair, something else, and then World Finance was on the corner.
Okay,
Who owns the
right in
back
back of their office, basically.
Yes, it's all owned by Carlos Tanner.
Who owns the back parking lot there?
It's all, yeah, that whole,
That's
the
all.
back half of that
So
block.
you have all that for
The
parking?
second half of or the back half of the little block would be all parking for us, yes.
Well, you know we don't have enough parking in town, that's for sure. Like I said, I'd make a motion to donate those 2 lots.
I guess Billy J's got a question.
I thought about this the other day after we talked, there's no issue. I mean, 11th Street, is that a state route right there, like we had, that's our parking spot that they cleared?
I believe Mr. Mason may have cleared that hurdle.
Yeah, we sit down, talk to Charlie, we talked to Mr. Guthman with the DOT, and there's another, Jeff Bowen, and they have both told me that they don't have a problem with it. Their only issue was the 2 city-maintained parking spots. He said the clearances from the street light and everything were fine, and he gave me the clearances from the curb, how far it has to be back before we can start our ramp, and all the clearances are there. Like I said, the only step that we're waiting for is hopefully the vacating of those 2 parking spots, so.
I would second Gary's motion.
I do want to ask our attorney if there's anything special we need to do in terms of...
It would need an ordinance eliminating those 2 parking spaces. I guess the question I would have, and prepare that ordinance when it will become effective, because we wouldn't want to eliminate those parking spaces immediately. It was a question of...
upon sufficient completion of the, parking lot.
Or when we get into construction, I don't know I don't know if there's any timing.
We could, agree to do it and then make the ordinance once you guys have the building down. Vote on the ordinance once they have the building down, and that way. we know we're ready
You
for
have
the-
purchased the building at this point?
We are in the process of purchasing
Okay.
it. We've made contact with Mr. Tanner, and we're going through the motions of the sales contract and title search and everything with Jackson County Abstract. So we're in the process of purchasing. No money has changed hands at this point, but we're going through all the legal stuff of purchasing it, yes.
I mean, Richard, you tell me how to draft the ordinance. I mean, what's your...
If you want to prove that those will be vacated, and when it comes time to do it, we do an ordinance officially doing it, or is it an ordinance that's contingent on the building be acquired and upon beginning of demolition of the building? We could word it that way.
We'll have to vote on that ordinance once it's prepared.
Correct.
So, we can just go ahead and say, get it, loaded and ready, and then when the building's done, you can bring it to the council meeting after that, correct?
If the board or council wants to vote to approve the elimination of those parking spaces upon the beginning of construction, then, at this point, we could then prepare that official ordinance then, or otherwise we could draft an ordinance with contingency language to enact now, but, I could have that in the next city council package, depending on how the city council wants to move forward.
I don't know if this would happen, and I don't anticipate it happening, but if we draft an ordinance, and we're paying you to do that, obviously, and then for some reason, it doesn't go through, then we have another ordinance that would,
Would eliminate that ordinance, correct, right.
it's just a matter of why do it until we need it? I think that I would love to approve his request and then do the ordinance when it's time. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, we have several steps we have to take before
Yeah.
we're even to the point of needing to vacate those. We have to acquire the building, and we have to get all the city permits and, all the stuff that's in place for getting the building down, getting it hauled off. We'll have to backfill, and
We're not
then,
talking 2 weeks here.
no, it's
So-
several months. process, and then we can even come up with a site plan, once the building is down and it's backfilled, because that's the step that has to take place first before we start cutting the curbs out and, pouring ramps and everything else. So we just wanted to make sure that the city would approve it at that time, because we don't want to have tens of thousands of dollars invested in this property, and then the city, like, sorry, you can't do that, and then we have, it'd still be used as parking, but it'd be a lot less convenient,
I don't think you'll have a problem. You get it, you get all your paperwork in line and stuff, of us helping you out.
Yeah.
Getting rid of a couple of parking
I don't
places.
see anybody up here, I'll vote no.
No, I think
Okay.
it's,
I just don't think we need to do the ordinance until private house. But I'm fully in favor of doing it, yes.
I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate them. And like I said, once we get the property in our name, and, I'm sure Charlie will keep you updated as far as like getting the permits to get everything down. I'm sure we'll need times where we have to close Locust Street for a while to actually demo the building. So I'm sure there'll be a lot more interactions in the near future coming with that. So thank you guys, I appreciate it.
When you tear that down, are you gonna have to block the street off in front of your business for,
Oh, I'm sure we will, yeah.
Yeah,
Just
for the safety
at least,
part of it.
at least for the part of getting the building down, yes. I don't know as far as like the clean up and haul off, but it may be easier to have that road closed for a few days.
Tear it down on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and
Be careful, because you're tearing down buildings connected to a lawyer office.
Oh, I know.
yeah, but they'll know when you're starting construction, start that.
It'll be noisy right there, yeah.
Better get it right. All right. Is there any public improvement under, or any public comment on the public? And now we'll go to public works chair by Gary Clark. Gary?
thank you, Mary, with no old business and consideration of a water change for the water tank. This wasn't part of their bill on the estimate?
No, within the bidding documents, we did have minimal square footage of pit repairs, but I mean, pictures I saw, most of this was in the riser pipe, and for this tank not having been touched in 30 years, that's I mean, it was in pretty good shape considering.
Or you recommend them?
I do totally recommend it, and this is a not to exceed number.
It's like, what, $9,500?
Yeah, $94.50.
I'd entertain you do this.
Second?
All in favor? Nays? Ayes have it. And the other part here, I had this put on because the soccer field came to me, all the money they're spending down there to water the field. They paid a water bill not too long ago, I think of $4,000. And that's not with any sewer on it. To dry this year and to save the field. And I know, I told them we had an ordinance against the water well. Me and Will talked earlier, and we can either give them permission to do the water well, which they would only use for watering the field. And really, we haven't done anything to help the soccer field out, other than we voted a few years back where they could put lights on one of the fields. It's either that, or we can donate them the water, which is gonna run over the years. It's gonna be a lot of money per year, over 10 years. Or we could let them drill one well down there and hook their pump to it and water the field. I told the boys in the soccer field that I would bring it up, and, but they can't, they're self-funded, they don't get big grants or anything, and I think Charlie can tell you part of that. I had a granddaughter, played soccer down there for 10 years, and I had the community service worker down there picking rocks up out of that field every day with a screwdriver and putting them in 5-gallon buckets to try to get the field where nobody would, fall on a rock, cut a knee open. But you know what, I want to open this up for discussion and get what all the aldermen and the mayor feel like with this. To me, we would have to have a special permit for them to do that.
The ordinance that the city enacted defines potable water. So the ordinance does not prevent a well that would be used just for watering of grass, things that are not for consumption. I'll read the definition real quick of potable water. It prohibits the use of wells, the drilling of wells for water to be used as a potable water supply. Definition of potable water is any water used for human or domestic consumption, including but not limited to water used for drinking, bathing, swimming, washing dishes, or preparing foods.
And
If
that's
it's just used for watering the field, it does not meet the definition of potable water. It would just have to be made clear, nobody can use this water, take the hose and take a drink.
Put a fountain in.
Now, I do not see anything else in the city code as far as the city permitting the drilling of wells. The permitting of the drilling of wells, my understanding, will fall under the Illinois Department of Public Health. They permit the drilling of wells, the licensing of who can do it.
Hey Gary, I give you some info on all that down there. We purchased the water cannon from the high school, and each time we pull that water cannon out to water one field, it's about $100. It takes 2 pulls of that water reel to water basically a 1/4 inch of water on a field. So we're looking at about $200 each time we pull that water cannon out. We lost the original high school field down there this past year with the drought we had. We're probably about $5,000 to $6,000 in on getting that reseeded. Most of that money came from donations from the board members to get that reseeded. We looked into getting a 6-inch well drilled. It was about $8,000 is what they kind of estimated. I know you don't know if you can get water, if that price goes up or down, but in just reseeding that field, in one time, we're going to be at that. We hosted the Sims, the Southern Illinois Middle School tournament down there this year and last year. There's 18 teams that come from all over Southern Illinois, so the amount of tourism money that we brought in, we sold the very minimal concessions to allow people to go out. So it is a huge undertaking for us to keep those fields. If we lose any of those fields, we lose the fall season or spring season, summer. The high school actually has to use those fields as well with the lack of space because we have to share it with the football. So it gets a lot of usage and we have to keep it watered, otherwise we'll lose everything down there. So that's just the numbers of that. The well, and I agree, I read the potable water, Richard, as well, and it seemed like it was the best bet.
Yeah, the boy, he assured me that they put a sign up, water's not for drinking, and they've already got city water hooked to their bathrooms and everything else down there, so it wouldn't interfere with any of that. But it's gonna save, over the next 10 years, it's gonna save them a lot of money, and they can put back into helping the youth of Murphysboro, Ava, Cardinal. There's a lot of towns that have kids in it to play soccer down there. Yeah.
Sounds like as long as the health department will let them do it, they can do it, right? I mean,
Well,
It would not be a violation of the city's ordinance if they're using the well only for watering of the fields.
so, okay, all they would have to do is get a health department permit.
They wouldn't be through the Jackson County Health Department, it's the Illinois Department of Public Health.
well, I know, health department is the one who signs off on septic tanks when we have.
I don't know.
On construction.
That's
Yeah, they had
Jackson
to
County.
inspect them.
What's that?
That's Jackson County Health Department.
Right.
They
That's
oversee
So this
that.
is governed under different?
That's be out
It
of
is?
Marion.
So is, Richard, as far as we're concerned, they can go ahead and deal with the well, or do we need to
Yes.
vote? So that-
No, I do not believe it takes a vote. It would not be a violation of the city ordinance. Now, if they are not taking measures to ensure that no one uses this water for purposes that would be considered a potable water use, of course, they're subject to then violation of the city ordinance and being ticketed and fined.
Specifically looking for cross connections. If they put this well in and then it gets connected to the city water system, then
Each field is plumbed in right now individually off of the city's, off the city coming in. It'd be a simple disconnect, and we have electric set up right there for it, and the well could go right there. It's a simple cut and plumb.
So it would be
for each.
disconnected?
Yeah, it'd be disconnected, yeah. We actually get 2 water bills, I believe. It's one for the irrigation and then one for the actual building, which is tied in with sewer as well.
I think the only thing I'd request would be Tim Lee go down during the installation and take some photos, just so that we have evidence of the way that it is hooked up, in case there'd be any question come up later about whether or not is this or is this not connected into your system somehow. We'd have proof of that.
Right.
So,
It's good to be informed.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
well, well, it's good to ask, you know, and I was all for them doing it. Just that more money for the kids and new equipment and stuff like that. Is there any public comment on Public Works? Hearing none, that can come out. Thank you, Mayor.
thank you very much, Gary. In case of public safety, chaired by Mr. John Irvis.
Thank you, Mayor. We have no old business, 2 items of new business, consideration of declaring police department rifles as surplus. Chief?
Yeah, we budgeted new AR-15s for this year and recently received them from Keesler Firearms Supply. So the old ones that were bought in the past, the Smith & Wessons, we had the option to trade them in, or we could take them and go ahead and sell them, or surplus them and then sell them to our officers. They were only going to give us like $350 per weapon on the trade-in, and our officers are going to pay $400 a piece for them. I've been consulting with the federal firearms license holder on this. It'll conduct the transactions and make sure all the paperwork's done straight. There's a $15 fee per weapon on that, and that's going to be taken care of by the officers that purchased the firearms.
Yeah, that's still a pretty good buy for the officers too, you know, from that.
Yeah, it is, but it's, you know, they weren't giving us, we just made sure we got up and beyond of what they were going to give us per weapon on trade-in, so.
What's the new ARs costing?
The Smith & Wessons are kind of like the bottom of the line, really. They're not that good of AR-15, especially the ones that were put out 8-10 years ago. These here are around $1,000 each, and then, of course, you lights and sights and all that have to go on them, too.
You buying 14 of them?
18, because we have 18 officers now. The only reason we had 14, we had 16 originally. Lieutenant Lockman retired, he requested to purchase his, and we did that, and then we had another one burn up in a squad car that caught on fire, so that took us down to 14.
So these are all spoken for, basically?
Yeah, because the ones, I'm not even going to take one. Anytime I approve these, like when we did the handguns and stuff like that, I don't take one that way. It's just, I'm out of it and overseeing it and signing off on each individual one with the firearms license holder. Make the transaction clean. That way I don't get any kind of benefit from it. So.
How old were these that were replacing?
These were probably purchased in 15, I would say. It's right around then, because Roberts was here when they purchased them, and they got them out of Rural King.
Probably the only time they've been shot to firing range, ain't it?
Yeah, I don't think there's had to be one fire, which that's real lucky. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Is there a motion?
I'd make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No? All right, that passes. Thank you, Chief. Next is consideration of request for street light at 321 Powder Lane.
Does anybody look at this?
It's off Garside Street.
Off where?
22nd, I'm sorry, I said Garside. North.
Potter's used to live.
Yeah, where Potter's, the family, Potter family lives back there. I went and looked today, there's a pole there, but I'm wondering if that street is a Murphysboro street.
That was my question too. I mean, to me, it looked more like an alley. If the homeowners wanted to put a light there, they could get together and do it.
Like I did, buy a security light,
Yeah.
put it out there.
Well, I do know that it is a city street. And I agree with you that it is somewhat to look at. You would think that maybe it wouldn't be, but I think that that came from years ago. There was a TV repair shop that operated out of there. And I think that, at that time, I don't know all the history, but, that used to be a fairly big business. And somehow or the other, the city started maintaining that. Because I remember I looked into that with Darren sometime several years ago. And
No, it's been a little chipped at some time.
Right.
It's a hard surface.
Do we maintain that anymore, wall and chip?
Gary, I don't want to say one way or the other, but I think so.
Harold over there.
If it shows up in one of your quarters, it's being all in chipped. Hard surface, I'm sure it's been all in chipped recently, fairly recently.
I'm 90% sure that it was oil and chipped in the last go around.
Now, how many houses is there back there?
Two.
I'll check and see if it has been. It's on your quarter.
Is this request coming from who?
I don't know.
221 Potter Lane.
Chuck Navarro.
That's who's requested it.
Yes.
Who did it come from?
Chuck Navarro.
And
I
Chuck-
believe he's been speaking to Charlie about it.
Chuck has the back of his property, isn't it?
It's basically kind of like a potted alley that goes back in there, and he's getting people cutting like to and from back there, and he requesting that there be a light in there since it's,
So to live in my neighborhood.
yeah.
Okay. Gina just said there was an existing light there, but whoever was paying for it must have turned it off. And I know that Naomi Potter, who was probably the one who was paying for it, passed away a few.
Thomas Eggert is who owns 223 Potter Lane.
Yeah, they had a bill, a boy named Bill.
Yeah, and then there was a daughter.
Yeah.
Well, how much, street lights are $10 a month or something, or, they're not wildly expensive for us. They
Is
do
there a
help.
pole there that's on our, I mean, if the pole's on private property, can we put a light on? I mean, that's fine.
There's a pole, I don't know if it was on the street or the private.
Yeah, whose pole is it?
It'd be ambulance.
It's Gina's.
Yeah, we know anybody that works there, him.
Well, is there a motion or?
I would make the motion that if there can be a light put up, that we would do that.
Second.
And from what I could see, at nighttime, it would be very dark back in there because the trees would block the light. So, yeah.
That's why I put a security light up.
All right, there's motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Passes. Any public comment on public safety?
I can go check tomorrow, let him know.
Tell Chuck I ain't mad at him.
No.
He can still call me.
Do it out there.
Thank you. That case is a personnel chaired by Ms. Barbara Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor. There's no old business, no new business, and unless there's public comment about personnel, I can bring it out again.
All right, I don't have anything under the mayor's report, but I couldn't help but talking all about the water towers. I'm sure everybody's seen that the paint job on 17th Street is efficiently done. The apples on the other side looks really good. But I'll just mention that. And I'll go to a council member requests, Ms. Hughes. Ms. Curry Wilson?
I had a constituent call me today about Wells Street, going up the hill. It's far back up Wells Street, so I think like there's a church up there, Church of God, about the ruts on the side of the road. So I went up there and I looked, and I can tell, like, previously, we probably have, like, filled it in and, you know, the things that we do. But to the right side of Wells Street, going up the hill, the ruts are so deep, like, if a car misses it by anything, like, the wheels coming off. And I took some pictures on my phone, so you guys could see them pass it around. But she just called and asked if we could, it's bad. If we could look at that and see about, you know, filling it in or, you know, repair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
And that's just one picture. I have a couple, you know, more.
Where is that?
Wells Street.
Wells Street.
So, right through the center, but back.
Going back.
Yeah, past Howland.
Yeah.
Well, that's washed out. Big time.
And that's just one piece of it. Yeah.
Well, the way the water's going down there, if you just put gravel in it, it's gonna wash on out down the bottom of the hill.
Well, it did, like I took some more pictures, but like a little bit further down from the ruts, it's like chunks of road and gravel,
Yeah.
That's that new county bike path program.
Yeah,
I just sent Darren Mills a text message, just call me tomorrow about Wells Street, thank you in advance,
You want me to send you the picture?
if you would.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing about it, Will, no matter how they fix it, they can't just put gravel or something back in it, because it'd be down to the bottom of the hill.
Got a new phone.
Look at all these other pictures.
There's lots in there.
All right, anything else, Jance?
No.
All right, Mr. Runge?
I don't have any requests, I just want to notify my fellow council members I will not be at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you for
It's
listening.
not acceptable. You're still on probation.
Mr. Austin?
I have nothing, sir, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Jackson?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Hunziker?
I too will be absent at the next meeting.
All right. Maybe I just won't come in. Mr. Pittman? Mr. Ernst? Mr. McCall?
Yeah, we had a good turnout at cleanup days. I lost track of officers that all that, they're probably getting up to 16 to 20. Had a couple people complain because they had to wait and they was only filling one dumpster at a time. I said, we have to do that because when the truck comes in, we can't have to throw you half full. You have to take that full one and drop another one. I understand it, but it's still not right.
Mr. Gladden?
Thanks, Harold, for the report tonight. Good to see all that's going on. And that, I stopped for a moment looking at the water tower. My wife informed me that the apple was on, so I had to take a look, but it's looking really good. And I want to thank Scott Evans and his crew for this fine audit report that we had.
Thank you. Absolutely. All right, we'll go to department head request, Attorney Blake.
Nothing to report.
Ms. Ripley.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Evans.
I said enough earlier, so I'm done.
Mr. Bellemire. Mr. Manwaring.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Sheffer.
I would report the contractor at the tank, the 17th Street is going to head on out to the boot camp after they get done there. There's some preliminary work with Blip, same thing we had to do here. So also I told Scott tonight, he's been itching to spend this ARPA money. We're going to have a pay estimate next council meeting. So we'll start spending that.
Can't wait.
Easy come, easy go.
Yeah, that's not ARPA money there. EPA home.
But Harold, wasn't all that they have discovered was not seeable whenever.
No, it basically, those kind of things are revealed when you sandblast. So, the inspection was done on the tank, and
But it didn't show up there.
you can see the worst ones, but once you sandblast, and especially down in the riser pipe. I mean, it was really bad there. I know Tim,
That's where we had the leak the last
he
time.
had a leak there the last time. and,
Sealed with the golf tee.
I've seen those types of tanks, when they were sandblasting, blast holes, pretty good sized holes in it, So, I mean, all in all, it was a lot better than I expected.
How many years?
Probably a little over 30 years.
That's amazing.
Sounds good, really.
That's as old as me.
Anything else, Harold?
No, that's it. Thank you.
How much gallons of water does it hold in front of
Oh,
How many gallons of water?
That is a 200,000, and then the other one's 100. But the other one at boot camp is quite a bit taller in order to match the level of this tank.
all right, Mr. Icer?
I'll shoot an email out tomorrow, updates of everything going on in town. It's too long of a list for right now, but I'll include the list of all the properties and surplus properties and vacant lots, and yeah, I know I missed them. There's no way I could find all of them, so if you can input your thoughts on it, let me know. And then thumbs up to Darren and his crew today on 14th Street. Everything that possibly could have went wrong for them today went wrong. They had battled since 5 o'clock this morning, so they did a good job out there today.
Definitely. Not to mention people going around his barricades.
And through them, there was one this morning.
And then there was an ambulance there too. When I came home from your office, I think, there was an ambulance on 14th and South Street. I don't know if, I was worried that someone got hurt, but I don't know. Were you there?
Yeah, we just had an EMR call there.
Okay.
Oh, 14th.
It wasn't anything from the city?
No.
Good.
No, they had somebody go through the barricades first thing this morning. So.
Of course they did.
14th in Illinois, we were on the south there.
Mr. Gladson? A motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor?
I wanted to say stuff.